Remember when a young comedian stepped onto a movie set with almost no film experience and walked away as one of the biggest stars in Hollywood? Some careers take years to build, but every once in a while someone arrives at exactly the right moment and changes everything. In the early 1980s, Hollywood was searching for the next big thing. Action movies were becoming tougher, comedies were becoming louder, and studios were trying to figure out how to keep audiences coming back to theaters. Then along came a movie that seemed ordinary on paper but ended up creating a formula that filmmakers would spend decades trying to copy. What's fascinating is that nobody involved knew they were making a classic. The production was filled with uncertainty. Studio executives worried about casting choices, scripts were constantly being adjusted, and there were plenty of people who doubted the project would amount to much. Looking back now, that's almost impossible to imagine because the finished film feels so confident. The chemistry between the lead actors jumps off the screen from the very first scene, but chemistry is one of those things that can't be manufactured. Studios can schedule rehearsals, organize meetings, and spend months preparing actors, yet sometimes the magic simply isn't there. In this case, it appeared almost instantly. What audiences responded to wasn't just the story. It was the collision of two completely different personalities sharing the same screen. One brought intensity and experience, while the other brought speed, charisma, and unpredictability. Every conversation felt like a competition, and that's exactly what made the movie work. Even today, many fans remember the exchanges between the characters more clearly than the actual plot. That's the sign of a film built around memorable personalities rather than just action scenes. Another reason the movie stands out is because it trusted its audience. Modern films often move at a relentless pace, racing from one set piece to another, but this story wasn't afraid to slow down. It allowed characters to argue, joke, and challenge each other. Instead of rushing to the next explosion or chase sequence, it focused on building relationships. Those quieter moments ended up becoming some of the most memorable parts of the film. The director understood something that many filmmakers forget: audiences don't just care about what happens. They care about who it happens to. That's why a simple conversation can sometimes be more engaging than a massive action scene. The production also benefited from a willingness to take risks. Rather than relying entirely on scripted dialogue, the filmmakers encouraged spontaneity whenever possible. That decision gave the movie an energy that still feels fresh decades later. The performances feel natural because many moments were allowed to evolve organically. Instead of sounding rehearsed, the conversations feel like they're happening in real time. Viewers may not consciously notice it, but they can feel the difference. Authenticity creates an energy that can't be faked. One of the most interesting things about revisiting classic films is seeing future stars before they become legends. Before the awards, before the giant contracts, before they become household names, there is always that one project where everything changes. You can actually watch confidence growing in real time. The performer begins the movie as an exciting newcomer and finishes it as someone audiences can't stop talking about. That's exactly what happened here. Moviegoers walked into theaters expecting one thing and walked out discussing someone completely different. Overnight, a new star had arrived. The success of the film didn't just transform careers, it transformed Hollywood itself. Studios immediately started searching for similar projects. They wanted mismatched partners, sharp dialogue, memorable one-liners, and a blend of action and comedy. The formula suddenly seemed obvious, but that's often how innovation works. Once something succeeds, everyone acts like the idea was simple all along. In reality, creating something new is incredibly difficult. Many movies copied the ingredients, but very few captured the same feeling. That's because timing matters. Culture matters. And chemistry matters most of all. What continues to make movies from this era so enjoyable is their personality. They weren't relying on massive visual effects or endless digital enhancements. Instead, they relied on actors who could command attention simply by walking into a room. A great performer didn't need an elaborate action sequence to become memorable. Sometimes all it took was a look, a line of dialogue, or a perfectly timed reaction. That kind of screen presence never goes out of style. Decades later, audiences still respond to it because charisma is timeless. Watching these performances now is like looking at a snapshot of Hollywood during a moment of transition. The industry was changing, new stars were emerging, and audiences were discovering a style of entertainment that would dominate theaters for years to come. The movie wasn't perfect, and that's part of its charm. It feels alive. It feels spontaneous. Most importantly, it feels genuine. The people making it weren't trying to create a cultural landmark. They were simply trying to make the best movie they could. Somehow, through talent, timing, and a little bit of luck, they ended up creating something much bigger. That's why fans continue to revisit films like this generation after generation. Not because they're flawless, but because they capture something rare. They remind us that every legendary career starts somewhere, every classic movie begins as a risky gamble, and sometimes the projects that face the most doubt end up leaving the biggest mark on history.